In this episode, we will be completing the React To-Do List application. Previously, we've added content and initial functionalities to each of the components, such that we are able to demonstrate what will happen to the To-Do application when we add an item, and also see what it displays when there are already items that are in progress and done. Notice here that the To-Do object were isolated to the To-Do input component, as well as the done list and the To-Do list components. In order for this app to work, we need to let the components communicate with each other. What we will do is to put the objects into a central place. For now, we will not be using any external libraries, but instead, we will just use the very simple approach of putting the state into a parent component, which is the app component in our case. This will give us a better understanding of how the components communicate with each other before using other third-party libraries. For the app component, we need to create the interface that will define the keys needed in simple to-do object. We call this interface iToDo, short for interface. Inside the object were the usual keys or fields containing what is used from the done list and to-do list components. We will then create a class that will implement the iToDo interface, in which it will create a constructor function that will let us define its initial values such as the description and whether it is done or not. Of course, this will generate a unique ID. So here we are creating a constructor that will define the default values of the class To-Do. We also use the UUID node package, in which we already discussed from the previous video. We will refactor the To-Do input component to use the To-Do class from the app component. This time, it will instantiate a new To-Do object instead of creating a constant inside the component. So when we try to see the browser, we will be expecting the same functionalities as before. To make the to-do list and done list component more dynamic, we will be moving the to-dos array to the parent app component. So instead of defining the object each time, we will instantiate it by using the to-do class and name it new to-dos. We will then create a state that will be consumed by the other components that we've made. The state will be to-dos, which will contain a list of to-do objects. The next one is setToDo function that will either add, remove, or update any of the to-do objects. As an initial state, it will be two to-dos: wash the dishes and watch a movie. To start, we will add the to-dos props containing the to-do state in the to-do list component. What will happen is that we are letting to-do list component accept the array of to-do objects in order to be displayed, and later we will be manipulating the list by ticking the checkbox to put it in a done state. This will also be the case for the done list component. So for the to-do list component, we will create the to-do list props, which contains an array of to-do object. We will do the same for the done list. When we try to see the browser for another time, there should be no changes visually, but we will be adding functionalities much faster after our latest refactor. In order to utilize the setToDos function, we will be adding the addToDo function, which will then be passed to the todo input component. This will let todo input component update the main list of to-dos by calling the addToDo function passed by the app component. We will just add the interface, and for now, we will set the type to any. Since we have access to the addToDo function, and we already have the submitToDo function defined within the todo input component, we will just insert the addToDo function in between. So what we'll do is add the new todo object, and then it will call the setToDo function, which will set the input field back empty. And you will notice that we see the new items populating right for both to-do list and done list components. In order for the said components to display different kinds of items, we need to filter what it displays. We can do that by using the ES6 filter function, in which we will be looping through each item and returning only the items that are not done for the case of to-do list and what is done for the case of the done list component. We will name the constant to-dos in progress. For the done list, we will name it to-dos done. So now we are able to distinguish the two components from each other, but we are still unable to set the in-progress items to done. To implement this functionality, we will add an onChange property that will handle any changes when the checkbox is being ticked. We put it in the update checked item function, which sets the isDone value to the opposite of its current one, which is true. And then update the current to-do object by its ID. Right now, Typescript is saying that it implicitly expects the index is a number, but for our case it is not. So we will need to temporarily update the type of ID to any. So, how can we update the parent to-do list? First, we just need to pass the setToDos function in order to be used by the to-do list component. We will not be needing the setToDos in done list, as it only displays items already done. We will be creating the interface, and then use the setToDos function under the update check item function. Now, when we refresh the browser, we can tick the checkbox and the items will be set to done and displayed in the done list. We now have completed all the functionalities of the to-do list application. Please subscribe to stay up to date, like the video if you like it, leave a comment if you have any suggestions or feedback.